One is, Senator Shindell, you put in a bill for us this year. We didn't list it as a priority, and it was a new bill for us, revisiting an old topic we'd worked on a decade ago about public financing. Do you want to say anything about what that bill did?
Sure. It's predicated on what was done, I think, fairly successfully in Seattle, Washington, and municipal government. They created something called democracy vouchers. So we all know that money is the mother's milk of politics, and those who have the money have a lot of influence. So this was a way to kind of get the average citizen, the average Jane and John, into the process of having some type of input, and in this case, funding. How do you fund candidates? Now, we have in Rhode Island matching funds for candidates in the executive branch, governor on down, secretary of state, but there's nothing for general assembly. So John had approached me and asked if I wanted to work with Common Cause and put some legislation in that would essentially mimic the I think fairly successful but still recent changes that they did out in Seattle. And to make a long story short, I don't want to draw this out too long, is that average citizens would get a voucher which is worth a certain amount of money, say $25, $50, or whatever it may be. And they will get a certain number of them because they will apply for them online. And then they get to give them to any candidate of their choice, whether it's a primary race or whether it's a general race, whether it's for governor or whether it's for a state rep or state senator, and basically anything in between those. All right, and that would give them the ability to participate in the process more or less of a level footing with those who are already contributing. But the charm of it would make politicians less dependent upon special interest money and more dependent upon whom? Well, the voters, the average voter. And if politicians kind of owe the average voter, well, that's a good thing. That's a win, all right? Because they're going to try to do what's in the best interest, in that case, in the vast majority of interest of the people who can participate in this voucher program. We had a hearing on it. I thought it was a pretty good hearing. But, the crickets were chirping in terms of any interest or bite on that hook so far, unfortunately. But we'll keep trying.
Yeah, and that's a new initiative with a kind of experimental program, and we're going to work on some fiscal analyses to see how much it would cost. This is something that would take a long time in terms of reform, but we thought we're often a critic of the current process, so we're often asked to kind of comment on people's campaign finance. So let's offer an alternative for once, and so we now have an alternative we can point to. There is a better process than the current process.